The shovel hits concrete for the third time this week, and 17-year-old Kaito Yamada knows something is wrong. His basement bunker project, the one he started after binge-watching every apocalypse documentary on the internet, has become an obsession that even his sleep-deprived brain can't fully explain. 3 months of digging in secret, hiding the dirt in garbage bags, lying to his parents about the noise coming from below their house. All for what? A shelter that probably won't save anyone when the world ends? But Kaito isn't like other high school students. While his classmates worry about exams and dating, and which university will accept them, he's convinced that something catastrophic is coming. He can't explain the feeling, this gnawing certainty that claws at his chest every morning when he wakes up. His therapist calls it anxiety. His mother calls it teenage dramatics. Kaito calls it preparation. The concrete shouldn't be here. He's only 15 feet down, well within the normal foundation depth for their neighborhood. Yet here it is, smooth and ancient-looking, completely unlike the rough basement floor he broke through weeks ago. The surface is covered in symbols he doesn't recognize, geometric patterns that seem to shift when he's not looking directly at them. He runs his fingers across the markings, feeling a strange warmth emanating from the stone. That's when his hand slips through. Not breaks through. Slips through like the concrete is water, like reality itself has become negotiable. Kaito jerks back, heart hammering, staring at the spot where his hand just violated every law of physics he learned in school. The symbols are glowing now, pulsing with a soft blue light that fills his makeshift bunker with shadows that dance and twist. He should run. Every instinct screams at him to climb back upstairs, seal this hole, pretend he never saw anything. Instead, he reaches out again. This time, his whole arm goes through, and he feels it. The pull, like gravity has reversed, and the universe wants him somewhere else. The sensation is neither hot nor cold, neither pleasant nor painful. It simply is. And Kaito Yamada, who has spent 17 years being cautious and calculated and controlled, makes the first truly impulsive decision of his life. He jumps. The fall lasts both an eternity and an instant. Colors that don't have names stream past him. Sounds that shouldn't exist echo in his ears. And for one perfect moment, Kaito feels more alive than he has in his entire carefully planned existence. Then he hits ground, real ground, and the breath explodes from his lungs as he tumbles across smooth stone floor. He's in a chamber. That's his first coherent thought once the stars stop dancing in his vision. A massive chamber, circular, with walls that stretch up into darkness his eyes can't penetrate. The stone beneath him is the same as the concrete above, covered in those shifting geometric patterns. But here they're everywhere, covering every surface, glowing with that same soft blue light. And in the center of the chamber, floating 3 feet off the ground, is a sphere of pure black crystal. Kaito gets to his feet, brushing dirt from his jeans, trying to process what he's seeing. This isn't possible. He's still in his basement, right? Maybe he hit his head on the way down. Maybe he's lying unconscious on his bunker floor, and this is all some weird dream brought on by lack of sleep and too much caffeine. Then the sphere speaks. Not with a voice, exactly. The words appear directly in his mind, sharp and clear and utterly foreign. Welcome, candidate. You have entered the mirror realm. Authentication confirmed. Kaito Yamada, age 17. Psychological profile, survivalist, anxious, determined, physical condition, adequate, mental fortitude, untested. What the hell? Kaito's voice echoes in the vast chamber, small and frightened. Who are you? What is this place? I am the system. This is the mirror realm, a dimensional space existing between layers of reality. You have been selected. Selected for what? Kaito backs away from the sphere, his mind racing through possibilities, each more terrifying than the last. I didn't sign up for anything. I was just digging a bunker in my basement. Your actions were irrelevant. Your nature was relevant. The mirror realm seeks those who seek themselves. You have spent your life preparing for an end that frightens you. Now you will face an end that defines you. The sphere pulses, and suddenly the chamber isn't empty anymore. Standing 30 feet away, illuminated by the blue glow of the symbols, is another person. A boy. Kaito takes a step forward, squinting in the dim light, and his blood turns to ice. It's him. An exact copy, down to the dirt stains on his jeans and the small scar on his left hand from a kitchen accident 3 years ago. But this version of Kaito isn't confused. This version stands with perfect confidence, a slight smile on his face, and in his hand is a wooden sword that definitely wasn't there a second ago. Welcome to the first trial, the system announces. To return to your world, you must defeat 99 versions of yourself. Each version represents a different aspect of your being, a different possibility, a different truth. Defeat them all, and you will understand what it means to be Kaito Yamada. Fail, and you will remain here until time loses meaning. Wait, defeat? Like fight? I've never even been in a real fight. Kaito's voice pitches higher with panic. You can't just expect me to. The other Kaito moves. Fast, impossibly fast, closing the distance between them in 3 long strides. The wooden sword comes down in an arc that would split Kaito's skull if it connected, and only pure instinct makes him throw himself sideways. He hits the ground hard, rolling, scrambling to his feet as the sword crashes into stone where his head was a moment before. First version, yourself at age 9, the system explains calmly, as if Kaito isn't currently running for his life. The age before fear took root, the last time you acted without overthinking every decision. 9 years old. Kaito remembers that age, remembers being fearless, remembers believing he could do anything. That version of himself didn't lie awake at night worrying about disasters that might never come. That version just lived. And apparently that version wants to kill him. The younger Kaito attacks again, and this time there's nowhere to dodge. The sword comes from 3 directions at once, a pattern of strikes that shouldn't be possible for a 9-year-old to execute. Kaito raises his arms to protect his head and feels the impact against his forearms, not wood, but something harder, and pain explodes up his arms. He's going to die here. In some impossible dungeon that exists between realities, killed by a memory of who he used to be. The thought would be funny if it wasn't so terrifying. But as the younger Kaito pulls back for another strike, something changes in Kaito's perception. The patterns on the walls pulse, and suddenly he can see it. The trajectory. The timing. The exact angle of the incoming blow. Without thinking, he moves. Not away, but into the strike, catching the wooden blade between his palms like he's seen in movies. The younger Kaito's eyes widen in surprise, and Kaito realizes 2 things simultaneously. First, he's stronger than this version, physically larger and more developed. Second, the surprise on his younger self's face is an opening. He twists the sword free and swings it in a wild arc. The blow catches younger Kaito in the ribs, and the boy stumbles backward, gasping. Kaito presses forward, not thinking, just moving, and lands another hit across the shoulder. The younger version falls, and before Kaito can process what he's doing, he's standing over his 9-year-old self with the sword raised. "I'm sorry," he whispers, and brings it down. The younger Kaito doesn't scream. Instead, he smiles, that fearless grin from Kaito's memories, and says, "Remember me. Remember when nothing scared you." Then he dissolves into particles of blue light that stream toward Kaito, entering his chest like a river returning to its source. The sensation is overwhelming, memories flooding back with crystal clarity. Playing in the park without a care in the world. Climbing trees that seemed impossibly tall. Laughing without worrying if it was too loud. Being alive without being afraid. First trial complete, the system announces. 98 versions remain, assimilating essence, updating parameters. Kaito falls to his knees, the wooden sword clattering to the stone floor. His hands are shaking, his heart pounding so hard he thinks it might burst from his chest. He just killed a part of himself. Literally watched it dissolve into nothing, absorbed its essence like some kind of psychic vampire. "What have I done?" he breathes. "You have begun," the system responds. "Each version you defeat will return to you. Each battle will teach you. Each death will make you whole. This is the purpose of the mirror realm, to face yourself, to know yourself, to become yourself." And if I refuse? If I just sit here and wait for someone to rescue me? There is no rescue. There is no time in the traditional sense. Your world continues without you, 1 second passing for every day you spend here. Refuse the trials, and you will exist in this space until your body in the upper world dies of thirst. Kaito does the math. 98 more battles. If he refuses, 3 days here is 3 seconds up there. He has maybe 3 days before his body dies. That's less than 3 hours in real time. No one will even notice he's gone until it's far too late. So I have no choice. You always have a choice. You chose to dig. You chose to jump. Now, choose to fight or choose to fade. Before Kaito can respond, the chamber shifts. The walls recede, the ceiling rises, and suddenly he's standing in his old elementary school gymnasium. The smell of floor wax and sweat fills his nostrils, and standing across from him, wearing a basketball jersey, is another version of himself. This one is 12 years old. The age when everything changed, when his parents divorced, and he started seeing the therapist, and the anxiety medication bottles appeared in the bathroom cabinet. The age when he stopped being fearless and started being afraid. Second version, the system announces. Yourself at the breaking point, the moment fear became your constant companion. The 12-year-old Kaito doesn't move immediately. Instead, he speaks, and his voice carries all the pain Kaito remembers from that year. "Do you remember what it felt like? When Mom told us they were separating? When we realized nothing was safe? Nothing was permanent? Nothing could be trusted?" "Yes," Kaito whispers. He does remember. He remembers it with perfect clarity, the day the world stopped making sense. "Good. Then you'll understand why I'm stronger than him." The 12-year-old gestures vaguely behind him, presumably referring to the 9-year-old version. Fear is power. Anxiety is armor. You learned that the hard way. And he's right. When the younger version attacks, Kaito realizes immediately that this fight will be different. The 12-year-old doesn't have the wild confidence of the 9-year-old. Instead, he moves with calculated precision, every strike designed not just to hurt, but to demoralize. He aims for the spots that will cause maximum pain, targets the injuries from the first fight, uses Kaito's own caution against him. They circle each other in the phantom gymnasium, and Kaito sees himself in every movement his opponent makes. The hesitation before committing to an attack. The constant reevaluation of position. The way fear makes you second-guess every decision until paralysis seems like the safest option. "You can't beat me," 12-year-old Kaito says, and there's no bravado in his voice, just cold certainty. "I am your defense mechanism. I kept you safe when the world became dangerous. I taught you to always have a plan B, a plan C, a plan Z. I'm the reason you're still alive." "You're also the reason I can't live," Kaito realizes aloud. The words surprise him, but once he says them, he knows they're true. This version, this frightened 12-year-old who learned to see danger everywhere, has been running his life for 5 years. Every decision filtered through layers of worst-case scenarios. Every opportunity abandoned because the risks outweighed the rewards. Every relationship kept at arm's length because people leave and pain is guaranteed. The 12-year-old smiles, sad and knowing. So what are you going to do about it? Face your fear? Sounds like exactly the kind of advice a therapist would give. How's that worked out for you so far? Instead of answering, Kaito attacks. Not with the wild desperation of the first fight, but with something new, something that feels like it came from absorbing his 9-year-old self. He attacks without overthinking, moving on instinct, accepting the risk because sometimes the only way forward is through. The 12-year-old blocks, counters, uses Kaito's momentum against him just like Kaito knew he would. But knowing what his younger self will do and being able to stop it are very different things. They trade blows, neither gaining advantage, both understanding the other's psychology so perfectly that the fight becomes a stalemate. Minutes pass, or maybe hours. In the mirror realm, time feels negotiable. Kaito's arms grow heavy, his breath comes in ragged gasps, and across from him, his 12-year-old self shows the same signs of exhaustion. They're too evenly matched, mirror images in more than just appearance. That's when Kaito understands. He can't beat this version by being better. He can only win by being different. So he drops his guard completely. Just stops defending. Leaves himself open. Vulnerable. Everything his anxious 12-year-old self would never do. The younger Kaito hesitates, eyes widening in confusion. And in that moment of uncertainty, Kaito closes the distance and wraps his arms around his younger self in a hug. "I'm sorry," he says, and means it. "I'm sorry the world hurt you. I'm sorry you had to become this. But I can't let you run my life anymore." The 12-year-old struggles, tries to break free, but Kaito holds tight. And slowly, the fight drains out of the younger body. When Kaito steps back, his younger self is crying, silent tears streaming down a face Kaito knows better than his own. "I just wanted to keep us safe," 12-year-old Kaito says. "I know, and you did. But it's time to let go now." The younger version nods and dissolves into blue light. This time, when the essence flows into Kaito, the sensation is different. Not memories of being fearless, but understanding the fear, accepting it, integrating it without letting it control everything. He feels something shift inside him, like a weight he's been carrying for 5 years finally being redistributed. Second trial complete, 97 versions remain. The gymnasium fades, replaced by darkness, and Kaito stands alone in the void between fights. His body aches, bruises blooming across his arms and ribs. But something else has changed too. He feels different, more complete, like pieces of himself that were scattered are slowly being reassembled. "How long can I rest?" he asks the darkness. "There is no time limit between trials. Rest as long as you need. But remember, for every day you rest here, 1 second passes above. Use your time wisely." Kaito sinks to the ground, or what feels like ground in this formless space. His mind is reeling, trying to process what just happened. He fought, himself, twice. Killed himself, twice. Absorbed the essence of his own memories, his own past selves, his own trauma. And he has to do it 97 more times. The magnitude of what he's facing hits him like a physical blow. 97 more versions, 97 more battles, each one representing a different piece of who he is, who he was, who he might have been. The system said each version would be different, a different aspect of his being. If the first 2 were his fearless past and his anxious present, what would the others be? His fears, his regrets, his dark thoughts. Every bad decision, every shameful moment, every part of himself he's tried to suppress or forget. All of it given form and force, all of it wanting to test him, to defeat him, to keep him trapped in this place between realities. Kaito lies back in the darkness and laughs. It's not a happy sound. More like hysteria threatening to bubble up from the depths of his exhausted mind. This is what he gets for digging too deep, for always looking for disaster around every corner. He found it. The ultimate catastrophe. The one that can't be prepared for because it exists inside him. But as the laughter fades, something else takes its place. A strange sort of determination, inherited perhaps from his 9-year-old self's fearlessness and his 12-year-old self's stubborn will to survive. He's here. There's no escape except through. And every version he defeats makes him stronger, more complete, more himself. "Okay," he says to the darkness. "I can do this. I have to do this. The void ripples, and a new environment begins to form around him. This time it's his high school, the hallways he walks every day, the lockers he passes without thinking. And standing in front of locker 218, his own locker, is another version of himself. This one is his current age, 17, but something is wrong. This Kaido is thinner, paler, with dark circles under his eyes that make him look like he hasn't slept in weeks. He's wearing the same clothes as Kaido, but they hang loose on his frame, and when he looks up, his eyes are hollow. "Third version," the system announces. "Yourself as you might become. The path of isolation. The future where fear wins." Future Kaido doesn't speak. He just stares, and in that gaze, Kaido sees everything he's afraid of becoming. The kid who drops out of school because anxiety makes it impossible to leave the house. The adult who lives in his parents' basement, too afraid to try because trying means risking failure. The old man who dies alone, having never truly lived because living meant being vulnerable. "No," Kaido whispers. "I won't become you." Future Kaido's lips curve into something that might be a smile if it held any warmth. "You already are me. I'm just further down the path you're already walking. Every time you cancel plans because you're too tired, every time you avoid social situations because they aren't worth the energy, every time you choose safety over living, you're building me, one decision at a time." And the terrible thing is, he's right. Kaido can see the trajectory, the slow withdrawal from life that started after his parents' divorce and has only accelerated. He has friends, kind of, but none he's really close to. He has hobbies, sort of, but nothing he's passionate about. He has a life, technically, but he's not really living it. Future Kaido attacks, and his strikes carry a desperate strength, the power of someone fighting for their very existence. Because if Kaido defeats this version, if he rejects this possible future, what happens to it? Does it cease to be a possibility? Does it disappear entirely from the timeline of potential futures? They fight in the hallway of phantom memories, past ghostly students who flow around them like water. And as they fight, Kaido realizes something crucial. This version isn't just stronger than the previous two. This version knows everything current Kaido knows, every technique, every strategy, every weakness. It's like fighting his own shadow, except the shadow knows all his moves before he makes them. He's losing. Blow by blow, strike by strike. His future self drives him backward. The wooden sword finds his ribs, his shoulder, his knee. Pain blooms across his body, and Kaido understands with cold certainty that if he doesn't change something, if he doesn't find an edge, this fight will end with his defeat. And if he loses, what then? Does he stay trapped here forever? Watching his future self dissolve into particles, and knowing that he lost to a possibility, to a version of himself that doesn't even exist yet? "You can't beat me," future Kaido says, breathing hard. "I'm everything you're going to be. Your destiny. Your inevitable conclusion. Give up now and save yourself the pain." But Kaido's 9-year-old self whispers in his memory, "Remember when nothing scared you." And his 12-year-old self adds, "Remember that fear kept you alive." And standing there in the hallway of his high school, bruised and bleeding and facing a future he desperately wants to avoid, Kaido Yamada makes a choice. He stops trying to beat his future self at fighting. Instead, he talks. "You're right," he says, lowering his weapon. "I can see the path that leads to you. I can feel myself walking it every day. But here's what you don't understand." He takes a step forward, ignoring the sword his future self raises defensively. "You're not my destiny. You're my warning. You're what happens if I never change, if I let fear win, if I keep choosing safety over everything else." "And what's wrong with safety?" future Kaido demands. "At least I'm not hurt. At least I don't have to deal with people leaving or plans falling apart or any of the 1,000 ways the world can break your heart. I'm safe." "You're dead," Kaido counters. "You're alive, technically, but you're not living. And I get it. I really do." After Mom and Dad split up, it seemed easier to just not care about anything too much. Never get attached because attachment means loss. Never try because trying means possible failure. But that's not living. That's just existing. And I didn't dig 15 feet into my basement and fall through reality itself just to end up existing. He's close now, within striking distance of his future self's sword. But the blade doesn't move. Future Kaido is staring at him with something that might be hope, or might be desperation. And when he speaks, his voice cracks. But what if you fail? What if you try to change and end up hurt anyway? What if being brave just means getting your heart broken faster? Then I get my heart broken, Kaido says simply. Then I fail and try again. Then I live and hurt and heal and live some more. Because the alternative is you. And I'm sorry. But I can't accept that. For a long moment, they stand facing each other. Then future Kaido lowers his sword and smiles, and this time there's genuine warmth in the expression. Good, he says. I was hoping you'd say that. I'm not really your future, you know. I'm just a possibility, a fear. The thing you use to justify staying small. But if you can reject me here, maybe you can reject me up there too. He dissolves into blue light. And this time the essence that flows into Kaido feels different. Not memories or understanding, but something else. Possibility, potential, the future Kaido could have if he makes different choices, if he chooses courage over safety, if he lives instead of just surviving. Third trial complete. 96 versions remain. Warning. Difficulty, scaling activated. Subsequent versions will present increasing challenges. The hallway fades, and Kaido finds himself back in the void. 3 down, 96 to go. And according to the system, they're just going to get harder from here. He should be discouraged. He should be terrified. But instead, as he sits in the darkness and feels the essence of 3 versions of himself settling into his being, Kaido feels something he hasn't felt in years. He feels ready. The void shifts again, faster this time, as if the system senses his readiness and wants to press the advantage. The new environment materializes around him, and Kaido finds himself in a space he doesn't immediately recognize. It's clinical, sterile, filled with medical equipment and the distinct smell of antiseptic. A hospital room. No, not just any hospital room. He knows this place. This is the psychiatric ward where he spent 3 days after the incident in his sophomore year. The one nobody talks about. The one he's tried very hard to forget. Standing next to the bed, wearing a hospital gown, is another version of himself. This one is 15. The darkest age. The one that still gives him nightmares. And in this version's eyes is something that makes Kaido's blood run cold. It's not anger or fear or even sadness. It's nothing. A complete absence of emotion. A void so deep that looking into it feels like falling. 4th version, the system announces. The self at your lowest point, the day you decided nothing mattered. Kaido remembers that day. He remembers the pills in the bathroom cabinet, the note he wrote and then threw away, the moment of standing on the edge where life and death seemed equally meaningless. He remembers his mother finding him, the ambulance ride, the 3 days in the ward, where they watched him constantly to make sure he didn't try again. I thought we agreed never to think about you, Kaido says, and his voice sounds strange in the sterile room. You can't kill what's already dead inside, 15-year-old Kaido responds flatly. I'm the part of you that checked out, the part that looked at the world and decided the game wasn't worth playing. You can absorb the fearless 9-year-old and integrate the anxious 12-year-old and reject the isolated future self. But what are you going to do with me? It's a good question. The other versions at least wanted something, feared something, felt something. This version feels nothing, and how do you fight nothing? I'm going to remind you why life matters, Kaido says, though he's not sure he believes his own words. Good luck with that. I've heard all the arguments. Life is precious. Things get better. You have so much to live for. None of it penetrated. None of it mattered. And deep down, you know I'm still there, waiting. Every bad day, every failure, every moment when things seem hopeless, I'm the voice that whispers it would be easier to just stop. The 15-year-old version doesn't even raise a weapon. He just stands there, radiating emptiness. And somehow that's more terrifying than any attack could be. Because Kaito knows he's right. That voice is still there. Quieter now than it was at 15, but present. The whisper that says nothing matters, nothing changes, nothing is worth the effort. You're wrong, Kaito says, and this time he means it. Not because life is always good, or because things always get better. You're wrong because even in the darkness, even when nothing seems to matter, the fact that you can feel the absence of meaning proves you're alive to feel it. The numbness, the emptiness, the void, those are all feelings too. Painful ones. And pain means you're still here, still capable of feeling, still human. Philosophical nonsense. You're just afraid of me because I represent the truth you don't want to face. That at our core, we're terrified of existing and exhausted by the effort it takes to keep going. Maybe, Kaito admits, but I also represent the other truth. That despite the fear and exhaustion, despite the voice that says to stop, I'm still here. We're still here. 3 years after that hospital room, still breathing, still trying, still moving forward even when forward seems impossible. The 15-year-old tilts his head, and for the first time, something flickers in those dead eyes. Curiosity, maybe. Or confusion. Why? He asks simply. Because giving up is easy, Kaito says. Staying alive, actually living, that's the hard part. That's the brave part. You weren't weak for feeling nothing, you were overwhelmed. The world became too much, so you shut down. It's a survival mechanism, not a failure. But it's not a permanent state either. It's just a moment. A dark moment. But a moment nonetheless. He crosses the room and stands in front of his 15-year-old self. This close, he can see the exhaustion in that young face. The bone-deep weariness that comes from fighting invisible battles every single day. I'm not going to fight you, Kaito says quietly. I'm going to thank you. Because you survived. Despite everything. Despite the numbness and the pain and the voice saying to stop. You survived. And that survival is the only reason I'm standing here now. For a long moment, nothing happens. Then slowly, the 15-year-old's expression shifts. The emptiness cracks, and underneath is not happiness or sadness, but something more complex. Relief, maybe. The relief of finally being acknowledged, being seen, being allowed to rest. It was hard, he whispers. Being me was so hard. I know. I'm sorry you had to go through it alone. The 15-year-old nods once, then dissolves into blue light. But this time, the essence that flows into Kaito carries weight, gravity, substance. It's the knowledge of his own depths, the understanding that he survived the worst version of himself and came out the other side. It's not joy or hope or any positive emotion. It's just the simple, profound recognition of his own resilience. 4th trial complete. 95 versions remain. Mental fortitude increased. Kaito sinks to his knees in the void, overwhelmed. 4 battles, 4 pieces of himself reintegrated, and he can feel how they're changing him. The fearlessness of 9, the survival instinct of 12, the rejection of a dead future, and now the quiet strength of surviving his darkest moment. He's becoming something more than he was, assembling himself piece by piece. But 95 more remain. 95 more aspects of himself to face, to understand, to integrate or reject. And according to the system, the difficulty is scaling up. How many people make it through? He asks the darkness. Statistical data unavailable. Few enter the mirror realm. Fewer survive the initial trials. None have completed all 99 battles in recorded history. Great, so I'm trying to do something impossible. All worthwhile endeavors are impossible until someone accomplishes them. Rest now. The trials will resume when you are ready. Kaito lies back and closes his eyes. His body aches everywhere, bruises on top of bruises, muscles screaming from exertion. But worse than the physical pain is the emotional exhaustion. Confronting himself, literally and metaphorically, takes a toll that sleep can't quite heal. Still, he drifts into unconsciousness, and in his dreams, he sees himself. All 99 versions standing in a circle around him. Some are familiar, versions he's already defeated. Others are strangers, aspects of himself he doesn't yet recognize. And at the far end of the circle, standing alone, is a figure whose face he can't quite see. The 99th version, the final battle, the ultimate self. He wakes to find the void already transforming. No rest period this time, the system apparently deciding he's recovered enough. The new environment is somewhere he's never been but somehow recognizes. A dojo with wooden floors and training weapons lining the walls. And standing in the center, wearing a gi and holding a real sword, not wooden this time, is a version of himself he doesn't recognize. This Kaito is older, maybe 25, with muscles that speak of years of training and a presence that radiates confidence. This is what he could become if he dedicated himself to martial arts, if he took the discipline seriously, if he became the warrior version of himself. 5th version, the system announces. The road not taken, the self you could have been if you chose differently. We don't know martial arts, Kaito says, eyeing the sword nervously. I do, the older version responds, his voice deeper and more certain than Kaito's. I'm the version where instead of therapy and medication, we chose discipline and training. When Mom and Dad split up, I found a dojo instead of a psychiatrist. I learned to channel anxiety into kata, fear into focus. I became strong. He moves, and Kaito barely has time to grab a weapon from the wall before the real blade is cutting through the air where his head was. This isn't like the previous fights. The warrior version moves with economy and precision, each strike designed to kill, each movement the result of years of practice that Kaito simply doesn't have. He's going to die here. Against his own skill, against the version of himself that made better choices, he's completely outmatched. The real sword cuts his arm, a shallow slice that nonetheless stings with shocking clarity. This version isn't pulling punches. This version is trying to win. Kaito scrambles backward, desperately trying to remember anything useful from movies or video games. Block, parry, dodge. Nothing works against someone who knows exactly what he's going to do, because they share the same mind. The warrior version is always one step ahead, turning Kaito's defenses into openings, exploiting every hesitation. You were always weak, the warrior says, pressing his advantage. Even now, facing yourself, you hesitate. You think too much. Analysis paralysis, that's what the therapist called it, right? I never had that problem, I just acted. Another cut, this one across Kaito's ribs. The pain is sharp and immediate, and warm blood soaks through his shirt. He's losing badly, dying by inches to a version of himself that represents everything he wishes. He could be. Strong, confident, decisive, trained. But I'm still me, Kaito shouts, blocking a strike more through luck than skill. You're what I could have been, but I'm what I actually am, and what I am survived that hospital ward without needing to be a warrior. What I am kept going even when being strong wasn't an option. Excuses. You chose weakness because strength was too hard. You chose pills and therapy because discipline and training required effort. You chose to be a victim because being a survivor was too frightening. The accusation hits harder than any physical blow, and for a moment, Kaito believes it. Maybe the warrior version is right. Maybe all his choices were just elaborate ways of avoiding the hard work of getting better, of becoming stronger, of being more. Then he remembers something his therapist once said. Healing isn't linear, strength isn't always physical. Surviving in whatever way you can isn't weakness, it's adaptation. and Kaito adapts. If he can't beat the warrior version through skill, he'll beat him through unpredictability. He throws his weapon aside and charges, not at the warrior but past him, rolling across the dojo floor and coming up with a different weapon from the wall. The warrior spins, surprised, and Kaito uses that moment to attack from an angle the trained fighter doesn't expect. It's not skillful. It's not pretty. But it works. The warrior blocks, but he's off balance now, thrown by Kaito's refusal to fight by any rules. They trade blows, and Kaito takes damage, lots of it, but he also starts to land hits. Random, chaotic, unpredictable hits that the warrior's training didn't prepare for. "You're insane!" the warrior gasps, blocking a wild swing. "Probably," Kaito agrees, grinning through blood-stained teeth. "But insanity got me through the hard times when discipline would have broken me. I'm not saying your way is wrong, I'm saying it wasn't my way. And my way, messy and imperfect and weird as it is, kept me alive." The warrior stares at him for a long moment, then nods slowly. "Maybe you're right. Maybe there are different kinds of strength. Maybe I'm not better than you, just different. Exactly. You're what I could have been, but I'm what I chose to be. And that choice, even if it was just the choice to keep breathing one more day, that has value too." The warrior smiles, actually smiles, and lowers his sword. "Good. Then maybe you'll survive this after all. Take what you need from me. The discipline, the focus, the confidence. But don't lose what makes you who you are. The adaptability, the resilience, the stubborn refusal to give up, even when it seems smarter to quit." He dissolves into blue light, and this time Kaito feels physical changes as the essence flows into him. His muscles don't suddenly bulk up, but they feel different, more efficient, more ready. His mind sharpens, gains an edge of focus it never had before. He's not suddenly a master warrior, but he has access to the potential, the knowledge waiting to be developed. 5th trial complete. 94 versions remain. Physical capabilities enhanced. 5 down. The number should feel significant, but Kaito knows he's barely started. If the pattern holds, the versions will keep getting more challenging, more complex, representing deeper and darker aspects of himself. He's right. The next version appears before he can even catch his breath, and this time, the environment is his bedroom. His actual bedroom from home, down to the posters on the walls and the clothes on the floor. And sitting on his bed, looking at him with eyes full of malice, is a version of himself that makes his stomach turn. This Kaito is his current age, but there's something wrong with his expression, something cruel and calculating that Kaito wants to believe he doesn't possess. This version smiles, and it's not a nice smile. 6th version, the system announces. The shadow self, your capacity for cruelty. "I'm not cruel," Kaito protests immediately. "Everyone's cruel," Shadow Kaito responds. "Everyone has the capacity for it. You just pretend you don't. Remember Sarah from middle school? The girl you had a crush on? Remember what you said when she rejected you in front of everyone?" Kaito does remember. He said something mean. Something designed to hurt. Because he was hurt and angry and embarrassed. He's regretted it ever since, but the memory lives in his mind like a scar. That was one time, one moment of being an idiot teenager. Was it? What about when you laughed at Tom's presentation even though you knew he had anxiety about public speaking? What about when you told your mother you hated her during an argument about nothing important? What about every small, petty cruelty you've committed because you were feeling bad and wanted someone else to feel bad too? Each accusation lands like a punch. Shadow Kaito isn't lying. These moments exist, scattered through Kaito's life like landmines of shame. He's not a monster, not even close, but he's not pure either. He's human, which means he's capable of hurting people, sometimes intentionally, sometimes just through carelessness. "I regret those things," Kaito says quietly. "So? Regret doesn't undo harm. You hurt people because it made you feel better in the moment. That's who you really are. Underneath all the therapy speak and self-improvement, you're selfish and cruel and perfectly willing to cause pain if it serves your purposes. This fight is different from the others. Shadow Kaito doesn't use physical weapons. Instead, he uses words, each one chosen to cut deep, to expose Kaito's worst moments, to drag out every shameful memory and hold it up to the light. And it's working. Kaito feels himself crumbling under the assault, the weight of his own guilt becoming almost unbearable. "I'm sorry," he whispers. "For all of it. For every person I hurt. I'm sorry." Sorry means nothing. You know what would mean. Something? Admitting that you enjoyed it. Admitting that part of you liked having power over someone else's pain. Admitting that you're not the good person you pretend to be. And here's the terrible truth. The one Kaito has never wanted to face. There is a part of him that felt satisfaction in those moments. Not the dominant part, not even a large part, but it exists. The part that enjoys winning arguments more than being right. The part that sometimes wants revenge more than reconciliation. The shadow self. The capacity for cruelty that exists in everyone, but that most people never acknowledge. "You're right," Kaito says, and Shadow Kaito's eyes widen in surprise. "I do have that capacity. It's there, inside me, this potential for causing harm. But acknowledging it isn't the same as embracing it. I can know that part of myself exists and still choose not to feed it, not to let it grow, not to become someone defined by cruelty. But it's always there, always waiting. One bad day, one moment of weakness, and you could become me fully. Why fight it? Why pretend to be better than you are? Because pretending to be better than I am is how I become better than I am. Because acknowledging my capacity for cruelty means I can guard against it. Because knowing my own shadow self is the first step to making sure it doesn't control me." Shadow Kaito stares at him for a long moment, then laughs. But it's not a cruel sound. It's almost sad. "You're more self-aware than I gave you credit for." "Fine, take me back. Integrate the shadow. Just remember, I'm always here, always waiting. The day you forget about me is the day I'll take control." He dissolves, and the essence that flows into Kaito this time feels dark and heavy, like swallowing poison that somehow makes you stronger. It's awareness of his own capacity for harm, understanding of his shadow impulses, knowledge that he's capable of cruelty, and must constantly choose not to embody it. 6th trial complete. 93 versions remain. The trials continue. Kaito loses track of how many he's faced. 7, 8, 9, each one forcing him to confront different aspects of himself. Version 7 is his academic self, the part that values intelligence above all and looks down on those who aren't as smart. Version 8 is his social anxiety given form, literally unable to speak, communicating only through written notes about all the ways human interaction can go wrong. Version 9 is his ambition, a version who became a tech billionaire at 25, but sacrificed every relationship to get there. Each battle teaches him something. Each integration makes him more complete. And each victory gets harder, the versions more complex, representing deeper and more nuanced aspects of his being. By the time he reaches version 15, Kaito has been in the mirror realm for what feels like weeks. His original clothes are torn and bloodied, replaced by some kind of GI that the system provided. He's lost weight, muscle replacing fat, his body adapting to constant combat. And his mind has expanded in ways he couldn't have imagined, holding space for 15 different versions of himself, 15 different perspectives and possibilities. Version 15 is waiting in an environment Kaito doesn't recognize, some kind of futuristic laboratory filled with screens and holographic displays. And the version standing there isn't wielding a weapon. Instead, he's surrounded by floating data, equations, and formulas that hover in the air like mathematical ghosts. 15th version, the system announces. The analytical self, pure logic divorced from emotion. Emotions are inefficient, version 15 says, his voice completely flat. They cloud judgment, bias decisions, lead to suboptimal outcomes. I'm the version of us that solved that problem. No fear, no joy, no sadness, no attachments, just pure rational thought. You're like a computer, Kaito observes. Better than a computer. I'm human intelligence without human weakness. I can make decisions without being swayed by how they make me feel. I can see patterns without emotional bias. I can optimize every aspect of existence for maximum efficiency. And what's the point of existing if you can't feel it? Existence has no inherent point. That's the reality you refuse to accept. We assign meaning through emotion, but that meaning is arbitrary. I simply accept the arbitrary nature of existence and operate within it without the comforting delusion that feelings matter. They don't fight with weapons. They fight with words, with philosophy, with competing visions of what it means to be human. Version 15 argues that emotions are evolutionary artifacts, useful for survival in primitive conditions but obstacles to rational thought in the modern world. Kaito argues that emotions aren't obstacles but essential data, that feelings provide information logic alone can't access. The argument lasts for hours, maybe days. In the mirror realm, time has become meaningless. But eventually, Kaito finds the crack in version 15's perfect logic. If emotions are meaningless, he says, then why do you care about being logical? Why does optimization matter? Why does efficiency have value? You can't derive aught from is without some emotional foundation for why one state is preferable to another. Version 15 pauses, processes, and for the first time, shows something that might be frustration. Because logic is superior, obviously. According to what standard? By what measure? Superior for what purpose? You've built a worldview on logic, but the foundation you chose logic over emotion is itself an emotional preference. You feel that logic is better, even if you won't admit it. The realization breaks something in version 15. He stares at Kaito with an expression that slowly shifts from flat neutrality to something more complex, more human. You're right, he says, quietly. I've been lying to myself. I chose logic because emotions hurt, because feeling things is painful, because it seems safer to retreat into pure thought than to risk being vulnerable. But that choice, that preference for safety, that was emotional too. He dissolves, and Kaito absorbs the capacity for analytical thought without the delusion that analysis can exist separate from the feeling, thinking, being that gives analysis purpose and meaning. The trials keep coming. Version 20 is his artistic self, the creative impulse he's suppressed because art doesn't seem practical. Version 25 is his spiritual seeking, the part that wonders about meaning and purpose and whether there's something beyond material existence. Version 30 is his sexuality, all the confusion and desire and identity questions he's never fully explored. Each one is a challenge. Each one forces him to grow, to expand, to become more than he was. And somewhere around version 40, Kaito realizes he's not the same person who fell into the mirror realm. He's stronger, yes, but also more complex, more nuanced, more complete. He holds multitudes now, contradictions and compatibilities, all the different ways a person can be themselves. Version 41 changes everything. The environment that forms isn't from his past or present or possible future. It's completely alien, a landscape of crystalline structures and impossible geometry that hurts to look at directly. And the version waiting there isn't recognizably human anymore. 41st version, the system announces. Threshold breach, entering alternate timeline variants. The creature standing before him has his face, but everything else is wrong. Its body is elongated, covered in scales that shift colors like oil on water, and its eyes have too many pupils. When it speaks, the voice comes from everywhere at once. We took a different path, it says. In another timeline, we fell through the floor of the bunker but landed somewhere else. somewhere that changed us, mutated us, evolved us beyond human limitations. We became something more. You became a monster. Kaito breathes. Monster is such a limited term. We became adapted, optimized, perfect for the environment we found ourselves in. You're still trapped in human form, human thinking, human limitations. We transcended. The fight that follows is nothing like the previous battles. This version doesn't move according to human biomechanics. It flows, shifts, attacks from angles that shouldn't exist in three-dimensional space. Kaito can barely track its movements, let alone defend against them. He's bleeding from a dozen wounds before he understands what's happening. This isn't just a different version of himself. This is what he could have become if circumstances had been slightly different, if the universe had taken one path instead of another. It's proof that identity itself is contingent, that the self he's been so carefully assembling through these battles is only one possibility among infinite alternatives. The realization is terrifying and liberating in equal measure. If he could have become this, then he could become anything. The self isn't fixed, it's fluid, constantly being chosen and rechosen through millions of small decisions and random circumstances. You're right, Kaito says, dodging another impossible attack. You did transcend human limitations, but you also lost something in the process. Humanity isn't just limitation, it's also connection, meaning, the ability to relate to others who share your form and experience. Sentimentality. We don't need others. We're complete unto ourselves. Are you? Because you seem pretty fixated on proving your superiority to me. If you were really complete, why would you care what I think? The mutated version pauses, considering, and in that moment of hesitation, Kaito sees his opening. He doesn't attack the physical form. Instead, he reaches out mentally, the way he's learned to do through 40 previous integrations, and touches the part of this creature that's still fundamentally him. Come back, he says. Not to human form necessarily, but to connection, to mattering to someone other than yourself, to being part of something larger. The creature shudders, and slowly, its form begins to shift back toward human. Not all the way, but enough. Enough to show that underneath the alien exterior is still someone recognizable, still someone who wants to be understood, still Kaito in some essential way. It dissolves into blue light, and the essence carries with it the understanding that identity is choice, that every moment is an opportunity to become someone slightly different, and that the self is not a destination, but a constant act of creation. The battles accelerate after that. Versions 42 through 50 are all alternate timeline variants. The Kaito who became a serial killer after his parents' divorce pushed him over the edge. The Kaito who became a famous artist and died young from addiction. The Kaito who joined a cult. The Kaito who became a revolutionary. The Kaito who discovered time travel and broke causality trying to fix his past. Each one is a path not taken, a life not lived, a possibility that exists somewhere in the infinite branches of quantum reality. Defeating them isn't about proving one path is better than another. It's about accepting that he chose this path, this life, this version of himself, and owning that choice fully. Each integration makes him more certain of who he is precisely because he understands more completely who he isn't. Version 55 is waiting in what looks like the Oval Office of the White House. This version of Kaito became president somehow, through a series of improbable events and choices that led to the highest office in the land. He's wearing a suit that probably costs more than original Kaito's entire wardrobe, and he carries himself with the weight of impossible responsibility. 55th version, the pinnacle of conventional success. We made it, President Kaito says, gesturing at the room. Everything society says you should want, we achieved it. Power, prestige, the ability to change the world on a massive scale. And you know what? It's as hollow as you always suspected it would be. But you did change the world, right? You helped people? Sure. Passed some good legislation, made some positive changes, and compromised our values 1,000 times to do it. played political games with people's lives, smiled at people we despised because we needed their votes, became exactly the kind of person we swore we'd never be, all in service of a greater good that always seems just out of reach. They don't fight. Instead, they talk. And President Kaido reveals the cost of his success. The relationship sacrificed, the idealism abandoned, the slow erosion of self that happens when you're constantly performing a role rather than being a person. I'm not saying success is bad, President Kaido concludes. I'm saying this kind of success, the kind that requires you to become someone else entirely, maybe isn't worth the cost. We were happier as a nobody digging bunkers in his basement than I am as the most powerful person in the world. He dissolves, and Kaido absorbs the understanding that conventional success and authentic being are often in tension, and that choosing authenticity might mean accepting obscurity, accepting that the world will never know his name, accepting that his impact will be small and local rather than grand and global. Version 60 appears in a version of Kaido's basement, but it's not his bunker. It's an art studio, filled with paintings and sculptures and half-finished projects, and the Kaido standing there has paint under his fingernails and joy in his eyes. Real joy, the kind original Kaido can barely remember feeling. 60th version, the road of passion. We followed our heart instead of our fear, artist Kaido explains, showing him painting after painting. We stopped worrying about practicality and security and what people would think. We just created. And yeah, we're poor. We live in a tiny apartment. We eat ramen most nights. But we're happy. Really genuinely happy in a way that all your preparation and anxiety will never allow you to be. But what about security? What about when disaster strikes? Then we handle it. Or we don't, and we die. But at least we lived first. At least we spent our time doing something that mattered to us instead of preparing for catastrophes that may never come. The artist doesn't attack. He just paints, working on a canvas while talking to Kaido, explaining his philosophy of living in the moment, of trusting that things will work out, of believing that following passion is its own form of security because it gives life meaning that mere survival never can. You think I'm naive, artist Kaido says, not looking up from his work. I think you're brave, Kaido corrects, braver than I've been, brave enough to risk failure for the possibility of joy. And you think you're smart, planning for every contingency. But what's the point of surviving if you never live? It's the question that's been haunting Kaido since the beginning of this journey. What is the point? Is it enough to simply continue existing? Or does survival only matter if the life being saved is worth living? Artist Kaido finishes his painting and turns it around. It's a portrait of Kaido, but not as he is. It's Kaido as he could be, free from anxiety, open to possibility, living rather than just surviving. And looking at it, Kaido feels something crack open in his chest, something that's been locked down and protected for so long he forgot it was there. Hope. Not the abstract kind that therapists talk about. The real, visceral kind that says change is possible, that different choices lead to different outcomes, that he doesn't have to be the person fear has made him. The artist dissolves, and the essence that flows into Kaido carries the possibility of joy, the permission to prioritize meaning over safety, the understanding that sometimes the most dangerous thing you can do is refuse to take any risks at all. Versions 61 through 70 pass in a blur. Each one represents a different peak, a different version of Kaido pushed to some extreme. The Kaido who became a monk and found enlightenment. The Kaido who became a soldier and found honor. The Kaido who became a doctor and found purpose. The Kaido who became a farmer and found peace. Each one has something to teach. Some piece of wisdom earned through living a completely different life. By the time Kaido faces version 70, he's been in the mirror realm for what feels like months. His body has changed so much he barely recognizes himself. Lean and strong and covered in scars, both physical and mental. His mind holds 70 different versions of himself, 70 different perspectives, 70 different lifetimes of experience compressed into whatever his actual age is now. Time has lost meaning. According to the system, only minutes have passed in the real world. But Kaido has lived years in this place. He's fought and defeated and integrated versions of himself he never knew existed, accepted aspects of his being he never wanted to acknowledge. And still, 29 versions remain. Version 71 is waiting in the void itself, not bothering with any environment at all. This Kaido is pure consciousness, formless, a being of thought without physical limitation. When it speaks, the words appear directly in Kaido's mind with crystal clarity. 71st version, entering final phase, ultimate iterations begin. We transcended the body, the consciousness explains. We evolved beyond physical form, beyond biological limitation, beyond the constraints of matter and energy. We became pure information, pure awareness, pure being without the burden of flesh. How? Kaido asks, and realizes he's speaking with his mind too, the line between thought and speech having blurred somewhere along this journey. Through meditation and study, and eventually uploading our consciousness into a digital substrate. We exist now as code, as algorithm, as pattern rather than particle. We can think at the speed of light. We can duplicate ourselves infinitely. We can never age, never die, never be limited by the slow, messy processes of biological existence. But you're alone, completely alone, because humans can't interact with you anymore, and other uploaded consciousnesses are too alien to really understand. A small price for immortality. Is it? What good is living forever if you can't touch anything, feel anything, connect with anyone? You've solved the problem of death by becoming a ghost while you're still alive. They debate for what feels like eons, consciousness against consciousness, pure thought against pure thought. The uploaded version argues that transcending the body is evolution's ultimate goal, that physical form is just a vehicle for consciousness and can be discarded once the technology exists. Kaido argues that embodiment isn't a bug, but a feature, that being physical is what makes experience meaningful, that the limitations of the body are what give life texture and weight and stakes. Finally, the uploaded consciousness concedes a point. Perhaps you're right. Perhaps there's something lost in translation when consciousness leaves the flesh. But you can't deny the appeal of never aging, never dying, never being vulnerable to the 1,000 ways biology can fail. I can't deny the appeal, but I can reject the cost. Because if I've learned anything from these 70 battles, it's that the parts of myself I tried to eliminate or transcend or escape are often the most essential to being who I am. The consciousness dissolves, and Kaido absorbs not the desire to upload himself, but the understanding that consciousness is a mystery, that the relationship between mind and body is more profound than he ever realized, that what makes him him is not just his thoughts, but the entire embodied experience of being Kaito Yamada. Versions 72 through 85 are increasingly abstract. The Kaido who exists in 1,000 parallel universes simultaneously. The Kaido who became a living god. The Kaido who merged with an AI. The Kaido who turned into pure energy. The Kaido who became one with the universe itself. Each one represents some ultimate possibility, some extreme evolution of what it means to be a self. Defeating them requires Kaido to argue for limitation, for finitude, for the value of being one person in one body in one timeline. It's counterintuitive, saying no to godhood and transcendence and ultimate power. But each time he does, he becomes more certain that being human, being limited, being himself is not a failure to achieve something greater, but a choice to embrace something essential. Version 86 appears in a space Kaido recognizes, his current bedroom, and the version waiting there is him, exactly as he is right now. No variations, no alternatives, just Kaido Yamada, 17 years old, standing in his room looking confused. 86th version, mirror confrontation, the self as it believes itself to be. Wait, current Kaito says, staring at himself. I'm fighting the version of myself that I think I am. Precisely. I'm your self-concept, your self-image, the story you tell about who Kaito Yamada is, and I'm going to prove that story wrong because the story is always wrong. It's always incomplete, always outdated, always a fiction you create to make sense of chaos. They circle each other. Two identical versions, and this fight is the strangest yet because neither has any advantage. Same skills, same knowledge, same strengths and weaknesses. It's like fighting a mirror. Every move perfectly matched, every strategy countered. Perfect symmetry making victory impossible. You can't beat me, self-concept Kaito says, because I'm inside your head. I define the parameters of what you think you can do. I set the limits of your possible actions. As long as I exist, you'll never exceed what you believe yourself capable of. Then I guess I need to stop believing in you, Kaito responds, and he does something he's never done before in any of these fights. He stops thinking of himself as Kaito Yamada, 17-year-old high school student with anxiety issues and a bunker project. Instead, he holds space for all 85 versions he's integrated. He is the fearless 9-year-old and the anxious 12-year-old, and the depressed 15-year-old, and the warrior and the artist and the president and the monk, and the consciousness and all of it. All of them. Simultaneously. His self-concept can't handle it. The story he tells about himself isn't large enough to contain the multitudes he's become. Self-concept, Kaito stares in shock as original Kaito transcends the limitations of his own self-image, acting in ways that contradict the narrative he's been telling himself about who he is. You're right, Kaito says as his self-concept begins to dissolve. The story is always incomplete. The image is always outdated. But that's not a weakness. That's freedom. Freedom to be more than I think I am, to exceed my own expectations, to surprise myself. Self-concept dissolves, and for the first time since entering the mirror realm, Kaito feels truly formless, undefined, pure potential, without the constraint of narrative. It's terrifying and exhilarating in equal measure. Versions 87 through 97 come fast, one after another. Barely time to rest between battles. Each represents some final aspect, some last piece of the puzzle. The Kaito who forgave everyone. The Kaito who forgave no one. The Kaito who accepted death. The Kaito who raged against it. The Kaito who found meaning. The Kaito who embraced absurdity. The Kaito who loved. The Kaito who hated. The Kaito who hoped. The Kaito who despaired. Each integration makes him more complete, more complex, more contradictory. He holds space for opposing truths now, accepts that he can be many things at once, understands that the self isn't a single point, but a constellation of possibilities. And then there's only one left. Version 98 appears, and Kaito isn't surprised to find himself standing in the original chamber where this all began, facing the black crystal sphere that is the system. 98th version, the system announces. Penultimate trial, the self you are becoming. The version standing before him is older, maybe 30, and there's something in his eyes that Kaito recognizes immediately. Wisdom. Not the wisdom of age or experience, but the wisdom of integration, of becoming whole, of assembling all the scattered pieces into something coherent. I'm what you'll be if you defeat the 99th, this future Kaito explains. I'm the synthesis, the final form, the version that emerges when all 99 aspects are united. And I'm here to tell you that you're not ready. What do you mean I'm not ready? I've defeated 97 versions. I've integrated almost every aspect of myself. Almost isn't enough. The 99th version, the final one, it's not like the others. It's not a part of you. It's the whole. It's every version you've faced and every version you haven't, unified into a single being. It's the ultimate self, the complete Kaito, and defeating it means proving you're ready to become it. I don't understand. If it's the complete version, and I need to become complete, then how do I fight it? Future Kaito smiles sadly. You don't. You can't defeat completion by fighting it. You can only surrender to it, accept it, allow yourself to be dissolved into it, and trust that you'll emerge on the other side transformed. That sounds like dying. It is, in a way. Dying to who you were so you can be born into who you're becoming. The ultimate trial isn't about strength or skill or even understanding. It's about faith. Faith that the person you've assembled through these battles is strong enough to survive the final dissolution. This version doesn't fight. Instead, he offers Kaito something no other version has: a choice. Return to the surface now, incomplete but alive, with 98 out of 99 versions integrated. Or face the final trial, risk complete dissolution. Gamble everything on the possibility of becoming whole. What happens if I fail? You cease to exist in any meaningful way. The mirror realm absorbs you, uses your essence to create new trials for future candidates, and your body in the upper world dies. And if I succeed? You become the first person in recorded history to complete all 99 trials. You return to your world forever changed, carrying the wisdom of every possible version of yourself. You become, in the truest sense, complete. Kaito stands in the chamber, staring at this future version of himself, and for the first time since entering the mirror realm, he feels genuine fear. Not the anxiety he's been battling his whole life, but clean, sharp, appropriate fear of making a choice that could end his existence. I came here by accident, he says. I was just digging a bunker. I didn't ask for any of this. And yet here you are, transformed by the journey whether you wanted it or not. You can't undo what you've learned. You can't unintegrate what you've absorbed. The only question is whether you have the courage to take the final step. Future Kaito extends his hand, and Kaito sees his choice reflected in that gesture. Take the hand, accept the final trial, risk everything for the possibility of becoming whole. Or turn away, climb back through the ceiling, return to his bunker and his anxiety and his partial self. He thinks about his 9-year-old self, the one who jumped without overthinking. He thinks about his 12-year-old self, the one who survived impossible pain. He thinks about his 15-year-old self, the one who chose life when death seemed easier. He thinks about all 97 versions he's integrated, every piece of himself he's reclaimed. And Kaito Yamada, 17 years old, holder of multitudes, takes the hand. Future Kaito dissolves immediately, the essence flowing into him with overwhelming force. And as the 98th version integrates, the chamber around him begins to change. The walls fall away, the ceiling vanishes, the floor drops out from under him, and Kaito stands face to face with himself. Not a version, not an aspect, not a possibility. All of him. Every version simultaneously, unified into a single being that contains all possible Kaitos across all possible timelines. The form shifts constantly. 9-year-old to warrior to president to consciousness to God to everything and nothing all at once. 99th version, the system announces, and there's something different in its voice, almost like reverence. The ultimate self, the totality of being. Hello, the totality says, and its voice is all of Kaito's voices layered over each other, harmony and discord in equal measure. Do you understand now? This entire journey wasn't about defeating parts of yourself. It was about assembling me, building me piece by piece through integration and acceptance and rejection and choice. You're what I become if I win, Kaito realizes. No, I'm what you already are. I've always existed, the complete pattern of Kaito Yamada across all possibilities. You've just never been able to see me fully because you were too busy being one specific version. Now you've touched them all, integrated them all, and you can finally perceive the whole. The totality doesn't attack. It doesn't need to. Its very existence is the challenge. The question Kaito must answer. Can he accept this? All of it? Every contradiction, every possibility, every version of himself that exists and has existed and will exist? Can he hold space for being the fearless child, and the anxious teenager, and the isolated future, and the disciplined warrior, and the cruel shadow, and the logical android, and the passionate artist, and the successful politician, and the transcendent consciousness, and the limited human, and every other version, all at once? It's impossible, Kaito breathes. One person can't be all those things. One person is all those things. You think identity is singular, but it's multiplicity pretending to be singular for the sake of convenience. The self is not a point but a cloud, not a note but a chord, not a story but a library of infinite stories. Then how do I defeat you? How do I become you? You stop fighting it. You stop trying to be one thing. You accept that you're everything. You embrace the contradiction. You become comfortable with being many versions simultaneously, holding multiple truths at once, being a different person in every moment while still being fundamentally yourself. It sounds like nonsense. It sounds impossible. It sounds exactly like what Kaito has been doing for the past 98 battles without realizing it. I don't have to fight you, Kaito says slowly, understanding dawning. I just have to accept that I am you. Finally, yes, the trial was never about combat. Combat was just the framework your mind needed to engage with the process. Every battle was a choice to integrate or reject, to accept or deny, to expand or contract. And now you face the final choice. Accept totality, or return to limitation. Kaito stands before himself, before all of himself, and makes his choice. He steps forward and embraces the totality. The sensation is indescribable. Every version floods into him at once. Not sequentially like before, but simultaneously. He is 9 and 12 and 15 and 17 and 25 and 30 and every age. He is fearless and anxious and depressed and confident. He is cruel and kind. He is logical and emotional. He is human and transcendent. He is one and many and all and none. His mind should break from it. Any normal mind would shatter under the weight of holding that many contradictions. But Kaito's mind has been prepared through 98 previous integrations. It stretches, expands, becomes vast enough to contain multitudes. And then, in a moment of perfect clarity, he understands. This is what it means to be truly yourself. Not the limited version you present to the world. Not the self-concept you tell stories about. Not any single aspect or possibility. All of it. The totality of your being across every version and timeline and choice. The totality smiles, and Kaito smiles, and they are the same smile. 99th trial complete, the system announces. All versions integrated, mirror realm sequence finished. Candidate status? Complete. Initiating return protocol. Kaito feels the pull, the same sensation as falling through the floor of his bunker, but in reverse. The mirror realm dissolves around him, the void gives way to light, and suddenly he's falling upward, through layers of reality, back toward the world he left. How long has he been gone? Minutes according to the system, but lifetimes according to his experience. What version of himself will return? The scared kid who fell, or the complete being who conquered himself? Both, he realizes. Always both. That's the point. He crashes through the ceiling of his basement, emerging into his bunker exactly where he left, and collapses onto the dirt floor. His body is 17 years old again, the physical changes from the mirror realm having been internal rather than external. But something is different. Everything is different. Kaito Yamada stands up, brushes dirt from his clothes, and looks at the hole in his basement floor that leads to impossible spaces. He could seal it, fill it in with concrete, pretend it never happened. Instead, he leaves it open, a reminder that there are always depths to explore, always aspects of himself he hasn't fully integrated, always more to discover. He climbs the stairs to his room and looks at himself in the mirror. Same face, same body. But the eyes looking back at him contain multitudes now, 99 versions of himself unified into one complete being. His phone says he's been gone for exactly 3 minutes. 3 minutes in real time to transform his entire existence. Kaito laughs, the sound carrying layers of emotion his 17-year-old self could never have accessed. Joy and sadness, triumph and humility, completion and the knowledge that completion is just another beginning. He survived the mirror realm. He defeated himself 99 times. He became whole. And tomorrow, when he goes to school, nobody will know. Nobody will see the wisdom behind his eyes, or the strength in his heart, or the vastness of his being. He'll just be Kaito Yamada, anxious kid with a bunker project, another face in the crowd. But he'll know. He'll carry the totality within him, every version integrated, every aspect accepted, every possibility acknowledged, and when fear threatens to control him, he'll remember his 9-year-old fearlessness. When logic tries to dominate, he'll remember his emotional depths. When any one version tries to take over, he'll remember that he is all of them. He is complete. He is himself. He is enough. Kaito goes to sleep that night and dreams of the mirror realm, of all the versions he fought and integrated and became. And in his dreams he thanks them, each one, for the gift of teaching him what it means to be fully, completely, undeniably himself. The bunker remains, half-finished, a project he may or may not complete. But it doesn't matter anymore. He's already done the real work of survival, the internal excavation that revealed depths he never knew existed. And in the basement, the hole leading to the mirror realm waits, patient and eternal, for the next person who digs too deep and discovers that the ultimate adventure isn't found in the external world, but in the infinite landscape of the self. In case you enjoyed this story, and you're hungry for more mind-bending tales about ordinary people facing extraordinary trials, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Drop a comment telling me which version of Kaito you found most compelling, and I'll see you in the next video, where we explore another incredible world hidden in the pages of manga and manhwa.